Hey y'all, what's going on? This is J Marie or J Marie Booklet. So today I am making a video. I was asked a question about what is the most common terminology that we will hear in the hospital, like throughout the day. And y'all, I have been thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, and my answer is I don't know. Because it depends on what type of unit you work on. So the terminology that you'll use every day is dependent on what type of unit you work on. So if you work on the cardiology floor or you work telemetry, you're gonna hear about hearts, open heart surgery, stents, all kinds of stuff. As opposed to if you work, heart attacks, just you hear all kinds of things. Whereas if you work on an ortho floor, you're gonna hear about bones, you're gonna hear about surgery, you're gonna hear about amputations, prosthetics, physical therapy. You hear that more. Same thing if you work in rehab. Rehab is rehab. Okay. Um, and then med surge is like all the above and everything else, so the terminology that you use is different depending on what department you work on. So then I was like, well, maybe medication, like maybe medications. But I was like, not no, that's not common either. Because if you're working in telemetry, you have patients that take beta blockers. If they had a heart attack, they need stents. They might be on Plavix. I mean, you really don't hear about that. And if a patient is on the ortho floor, the language you would use is different. Like the drugs are totally different. I didn't realize it was that much narcotics out there because the people on the ortho floor, they got a broken bone, so they're in pain, so they take more pain medicine. Whereas a cardiologist patient with heart issues, they may take beta blocker, they may take blood pressure medicine. It's different. So then I was like, okay, well maybe. So then I was like, well maybe labs, because our bodies are all made up of the same thing. So and then I was like, well maybe diet, but the diets are different. So like I think I was the only person who knew how to order a when they changed the diet, because like the cardiac diet, that's what it's called usually in most hospitals, and they changed the name of it. People didn't know what was going on. I was like, it's they just changed the name. That's all they did, because it's a cardiac diet. Cardiac is the heart. They just changed the name. But I was the only one who really knew how to order that diet. Like I don't understand why it was an issue, but it was. But a cardiac diet, I mean, yes, you would see it because they changed it when I was still on the main floor. But a cardiac diet, I saw that all the time in the ICU. Whereas, and same thing with NPO, same thing with soft, same thing with puree, things like that. I probably saw puree more on the main floor. You saw all kinds of diets on the main floor, whereas opposed in the ICU, it's a different. It's a cardiac diet. So like we did main floor, we did like a lot of soft diets because we had a lot of older people. So it depends. Because I was like, maybe it's diet. Then I was like, maybe labs, but that's not. I mean, but none of that is terminology. I mean, we learn it, but it's lab. So then, cause like CBC and hemoglobin and all that stuff, it's just. And even then, that's not, because in like telemetry, you're more likely to put in um oh god, what is it called, cardiac enzyme. So it's like the CK and the troponin and all that. You more likely to do that than you are on the. It's just, so then I was like, well, maybe it's like tests, like X-rays, and uh, I don't know. So my answer is I don't know. What is the most common terminology you use? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's the doctors, like the cardiologists, urologists, gastrologists, endo. I mean, maybe that's the most common. I don't know. I guess the only thing I can say is the most common. I don't think there is a common terminology. No, and please, if any of y'all can think of something, put it in the comments because I was like, I cannot come up with anything. I mean, I think the only thing that we all do that is consistent is calling consults. I think that is the most consistent thing that you do across the board. I think that's it. I mean, we all answer the phones. I never count that. And I even hold on. I even looked at this. This is my medical terminology. I was like, what kind of? See all this? I got this off Amazon. It was like $10. Okay, all on the back. Okay, I'm like, what is the most common? And I was like, I can't think of anything. I'm looking at this. I mean, I'm literally looking at everything. I'm like, what is the most common terminology? And I don't think there is one. It just depends on what unit you work on. Then it'll be common for you. Like I said, if you work on telemetry, you do, cardiac, and that's familiar to you. If you work on ortho, that's familiar to you. If you do surgery, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. And when you asked that question, I was like, I gotta think about that. And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and that's why it's been days, because I was gonna do the video right away, but I was like, well, maybe it's because I had my list right here. I was like, I was writing down stuff. I was like, well, maybe it's, and it just all depends on what unit you work on what is the most common terminology. I think that's why it is good to float to other floors, because you learn. So, I mean, when I worked on the main floor, I learned a lot. The main floor is everything. But floating to other floors, it stuff makes sense, because sometimes you do stuff, you call in consults, you do things, you order, and you don't know why. You just do it. But when you float to other floors, you see it makes sense. Like the ortho, I always talk about the ortho because now it makes sense why they were always on the call light. The patients were always on the call light because they're in pain. They've got broken bones. They can't move. They can't do this. They need help. And they're in pain. So it makes sense to you. And then you don't complain about the call lights on your floor because going off, because those call lights go off. But it makes sense though. So I don't know. I don't know what the most common terminology that you'll use in the day. I don't know. I don't know what it. I don't know. And I'm being so honest with you. And I've been thinking about it for days. And my answer is I don't know. So if any of you all know, if you have a suggestion, what is probably the most common terminology that we use throughout the day, you can put it below. You can also follow me on my blog. It's J. Marie Booklets. That's where I talk about being a health unit coordinator. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.